Hi, I'm Beth Zupec-Kania, and this is an introduction to KetoDietCalculator. This is for clients, caregivers, and patients, and I'm going to use the term clients to make things easier throughout this. A shout out to the Charlie Foundation is due for all of their years of sponsoring the web server fees for this program, and to the Bazooki Group for a generous donation that has covered a large upgrade that you will enjoy in this presentation. So this is a slide just to give you a bit of background on the variations in ketogenic metabolic therapy, and that's the preferred phrase that we are using now. These 4 diets have been well published in the medical literature for neurological disorders, specifically epilepsy. The 2 diets on the left are the old diets, the old school diets, very effective, very structured. You can see a gram scale at the top of both of these, and that's why they're called precision keto or prescription keto. The 2 diets on the right are hybrid diets and meant to be more flexible. They are lower in fat. They're meant to be for people that are independent, on the go, and might not have somebody preparing foods for them. Also can be very effective. Now, we sometimes start people on a very flexible keto diet and then go to a structured diet to achieve a higher state of ketosis for better outcomes. And we can do the reverse. We can start somebody on a very structured diet and then eventually transition them to a more flexible diet over time. So a good keto nutritionist will know the ins and outs of these therapies and be able to manipulate them to make it the best experience for their patients and clients. So let's move on to KetoDietCalculator. This is the landing page at KetoDietCalculator.org. So as a client, you will be given a username and password from the nutritionist that is managing your therapy. So you can log in at this button here, and this will bring you to the next page. But before I do that, I want to just point out that if you don't have a nutritionist, you can find one through this link, which takes you to the Charlie Foundation's webpage, where there are several very experienced ketogenic dietitians and nutritionists who work virtually for fee-based consultations. Okay, so back to logging in, you would enter the username and password that were created for you. And that brings you to this page, and at the top you will see your username listed, and then your name if you are the client, or if you're the caregiver, the patient's name. And then this data right below is all of the client data that's related to that person. So once the nutritionist has set up a diet, you can come in and look at all of these data features. And you'll also notice that the age of the client is always updated underneath their name. The age is a very important piece of data because it relates to ideal body weight and dietary reference intakes for protein and also micronutrients. So I want to just highlight that there is support information, and this is information that's available to everyone. It's the same for everyone who uses the program, and this includes resources that I'm going to go into at the very end of this presentation. And so let's go to the page that opens up after you log in, and that is the meal page, because that's really what you want. You want to create meals for your therapy. So this is showing you 3 client meals that were selected previously. We're going to go through the step of selection, but I just want to show you, you have this meal list, and the nutritionist generally makes several meals in advance to get you going. And we're going to delve into one of these, and it's the top one called Breakfast Keto Protein Smoothie Raspberry. So we're going to open this up, and now we see the details of this recipe. It's a smoothie, essentially, right? And it's something I actually use to get people going on the diet because it's easy to put together. It's in a ketogenic ratio, and people tend to like them, so they consume the whole thing. It's also a source of fluid, so you're getting hydration while you're eating your keto meal. So on this list are the ingredients for this meal, and the top one is raspberries, and it shows you there's 100 grams of raspberries, and then it calculates out the macronutrients that amount of raspberries provides. So fat, protein, net carb, which is total carb minus the natural fiber, and then the total calories. So each item on this list is calculated in that way. And then we have this sum of all the macronutrients, and what we want to do is compare it to the goal. And the goal has this little suggested accuracy to be within 4 calories of the goal and on or slightly above the ratio. So mind you, this was a recipe just selected from the standard meals, and the program calculated it to match up to the client their goal macronutrients. So where do you find those goal macronutrients? I'm going to take you there in just a moment, but I want you to know that you can modify this meal by deleting foods, adding foods, making it a chocolate smoothie, making it a coconut smoothie, no fruit, more fruit, whatever you want. It's very adjustable, modifiable. And there's even a place for directions at the bottom. And a lot of these standard meals that are in this program come with directions, and we'll come back to that. So now on the client list, we have the 3 meals that I showed you before, and I want to point out that you have the ability to make a copy of any meal. And once you make a copy, then you can modify it. And in this case, this first meal as well as the second meal were designed by the nutritionists. And how do I know that? Because they verified the meal, and you see this little green check mark that shows that they verified this. And if a meal is verified, it means the user can not only see it, but they can email it, and they can print it, and they can use it in their meal planner. So once the nutritionist comes up with some meals, it's great to go in and make some copies so that you can modify them, because he or she has already made some modifications knowing what you like to eat. So here is that copy, and now it says blueberries. So I'm going to show you how that happened. So this is the raspberry meal to start off with. I went in and changed the name of the meal to the smoothie with blueberries. I deleted the raspberries from the meal, and then I added in blueberries. There's a box here for typing in blue, and then it brings up anything that has blue in the name from the master list. And then I selected and saved it, and the blueberries pop up into the meal. And then you have to figure out how much, which is pretty easy to do because you just arrow up on these up-down arrows till you get to the desirable carbohydrate goal at the bottom. And a little intel about phase 2 is we're going to have an optimizer that's going to figure out those grams of blueberries for you. But right now you have to do a little bit of work here with the up-down arrow or typing in an estimated number to get to your goal carbs. So we've got the goal very close to the actual. We have a total of 635 calories, which is actual, and that's 2 calories higher than the goal, which is fine. And then we're a little bit over the 1-to-1 ratio. So I want to take you to explain a little bit more about the ratio, but you should always save your changes when you see that button in a meal. Hopefully we'll get rid of this button in the future, but for right now we are needing to save before we leave the page. If you don't, you'll get a little pop-up window remind you to do that. All right, I'm going to take you to diet calculations. So this is a page that you can go to look at how the nutritionist set up your macros. And the first part of this page shows you your desirable weight, which is your ideal weight for your height. If you're underweight, it would be your actual weight. And then a recommended calorie range, and then the nutritionist is selecting a desired daily calorie level, and then a ratio. So the ratios can be anywhere from 1:1 for the most liberal macronutrient profile to 5:1 for very high fat, minimal protein and carb, not even appropriate for most adults. And then the diet type, we have oral diet versus enteral. Enteral is for people that are subsiding on liquid formulas that may go through a feeding tube. And then dividing the diet into 3 meals, which is the default. I have children eating 4 meals. I have adults eating 2 meals. It can be whatever the individual prefers. And then there's a little field there for notes, which is left blank. But now I want to show you that the macronutrients auto-calculate. That's an algorithm that I built into the program to figure out, based on the selected ratio, the calories and the protein requirements for this person's gender and age. The macronutrients then are auto-calculated. So all of those things are taken into account to come up with macronutrients. The nutritionist can go in and override this. We may start somebody here with this 1:1 ratio, and the 1:1 ratio simply means grams of fat to grams of protein plus carbohydrate. So the grams of fat for the day is 146.15, and that's the same for protein and carbohydrate. That means 1:1, they're equal, right? Same amount. But then the protein and carbohydrate separately are shown here. And the nutritionist can override this. We can switch protein to 82, and that would reduce the carbohydrate by 20. So there's some manipulation that can go on here with the macronutrients. And this was with all the intention of A, starting somebody safely on keto, B, getting them into a degree of ketosis that works for their condition. It might be a light ketosis to start with the goal eventually of getting into stronger ketosis. So there's a lot of modification that can be done here. And then the per meal values of the macros are displayed in the final column. So that's diet calculations, which you can peruse. And then we have the snack calculation, which is separate from meals. I often tell adults, you're all grown up, you don't need snacks. But people like to have the option to consume a snack, maybe daily, if they're underweight, for example, maybe on special occasions like Sundays or birthdays, etc. So the snacks have a lot of options for baked goods like cake and cookies, and it's good to try them out in a snack so that you don't try them out in a meal and ruin the whole meal by trying something that just doesn't work out. So these are quite interesting standard snacks that I'm going to show you, but first the calculation. So the nutritionist went in and created the snack calculation and chose a 3:1 ratio. And I just told you this is a 1:1 diet. Well, that was the diet, right? But the snack can be whatever you want it to be. I tend to pick higher ratios for the snack because it can boost ketosis if that is the goal. It's definitely a higher fat makeup, but it can be very helpful in terms of getting where we want with ketosis. So this is a snack calculation, very similar to the algorithm that I used for meals, but we don't have a protein requirement. It can be all carb, all protein, but fat is the main source of calories here. And we're showing you that for 100 calories, we have 9.68 grams fat, protein plus carb is 3.23. And if you were to multiply that times 3, you would get the fat, right? 3 times the amount of protein plus carb equals the fat. And then we can adjust these just like I explained in the meals. We can modulate the protein and the carb as the nutritionist manipulating the macros. And then the next feature is to add keto snacks like our keto standard meals. You would find this list through this link. And here's an example All of these keto snacks are alphabetized in the list. And I chose almond cream cheese. Okay, we're going to save that and we're going to open that up. It comes up onto the meal list as the second one. And when we open it up, it looks kind of like that meal that we looked at, but there's only 2 items. I see butter and I see bread, almond cream cheese. And there's a recipe in the directions down below. And what we want to do first is make sure that our actual values are meeting our goal, because this was a standard, and they did. This is a 3-to-1 bread, so we are pretty on target with calories and a little over the ratio, which is fine. And so that's a snack that's good to go. And the directions, as I said, are there. So the last piece that I just want to touch on lightly, I'm not going to show every page of these because it's going to overwhelm you and you won't need this information until you need it. Support information, okay? So that bottom list on the lower left of the main menu, the first one, FAQ, frequently asked questions. There's frequently asked questions about each of the features I just showed you from the upper list. You can go through each one of those, click on them, and look at all of the commentary. Then we have this food and products list. These are the background tables for your program. And the important thing to remember here is foods are added with macronutrients per 100 gram servings. And that is not what we see on a food label here in the US. It is if you live in Europe. They list their food labels per 100 grams, so it's very easy for people to make this connection. But here in the US, we have to do a little conversion to a little bit of algebra to convert that. So I have entered hundreds of items into these lists, and I also maintain them. Now, if your nutritionist wanted to add something to this list, they can certainly do that for you. It's going to show up in blue. Okay, so you see almond butter dash Betty's. That's probably a local farmer's market product. The nutritionist went and added that in, so the nutritionist is in charge of editing that product. So unlimited products can be added to this. I've had people who live in foreign countries add hundreds of foods to their program and in their language so that their clients can use the program as well. All right, so now the next support information is support docs, meaning documents, and these are PDFs describing different components of the diet. These are actually select pages from a book I wrote that the Charlie Foundation sells. So you can get them for free here. And then in this upper right are demonstration videos. So that's the link to my YouTube page for the demonstration videos like this one. And then finally, notifications. And this is where I enter if I've added a new food or product, such as a medication or supplement, and if there's an upgrade, I put the notification here. So it's good to check in here, once a week or so. I'm usually adding something or changing something once or twice a month. And then the final button is the log out button. So please log out with that button below. And I just want to end with asking you to consider an annual donation to the Charlie Foundation to support upgrades. And it's just charliefoundation.org/donate. Thank you. I hope you enjoy the program.